Hey, what's up? I know if you just found out this video is an hour and a half long, it's literally just me reading a book. I'm reading a short story, and it's a little bit longer than it should be because I'm giving my own commentary. I'm reacting to it, the book. I'm giving my own commentary and reactions as I'm reading it. So it's not a very professional book reading. It's not meant to be. It's just meant to, like, you're just chilling and listen to me read a story and react to it. So you can put this on in the background or while you're exercising. I don't care what you do with it, but yeah, it's literally just me reading a book. So I figured I'd read it to you and upload it on YouTube. So yeah. I don't even know what this is. I don't know what this is. I've had this on my shelf, on my bookshelf for like forever, and I forgot where I got it from, to be honest. It's this book, and it had a cover to it, but I take them off because I find them annoying. It just gives a description on each side. And it told me not to read After Dark, especially page 26, so I waited till after dark and read page 26 to myself. And of course, I was confused because I didn't know what was going on, because this, A Coven of Witches, it's actually the last Apprentice, A Coven of Witches. And it's a collection of stories. And I just thought that I could read some of these, because Halloween's actually a couple corners away, but it's getting towards September now, so I figured I'd try out a reading of some of these stories, because they sound kind of funny, and I could do like a little commentary over them if I feel like it. Meg Skelton, Dirty Dora. Like, Dora explored a mud puddle. That was a dumb joke. Alice and the Brain Guzzler. Like, that sounds hilarious. The Banshee Witch. And then I wrote The Last Apprentice, because I didn't know how to take care of books when I was little. Well, I did, and I thought that I was, but then I realized that I made a mistake. So, anyway, let's read Meg Skelton. Okay, so here we go. And I don't know how my phone is, but literally just my microphone for now. Alright, it's in between my legs. That's how I'm propping this up. Meg Skelton. This is a tale that must be told, a warning to those who might one day take my place. My name is John Gregory, and I'm the local spook. I'm Spider-Man, your neighborhood. I'm John Gregory, your neighborhood local spook. What now follows is the full and truthful account of my dealings with the witch Meg Skelton, not Meg Skeleton. Okay, it's like the same thing where when I was little and I watched Nightmare Before Christmas, I thought his name was Jack Skeleton, but it was Jack Skellington, which really confused me when someone told me that. I was like, what the frick is a skeleton? Skeleton, because he's a skeleton, but it's not, it's Skellington, and I don't know. But this is Meg Skelton, which actually sounds like a name someone would have. Anyway. This goes from page 2 to page 38, and the text is big, so it's not that long. Okay, chapter 1, the fight with Abhuman. The frick? For 5 years, my master Henry Horrocks had trained me as a spook. What's a spook? Oh yeah, he trained me to be spooky. I spook the streets. Going around spooking people. Anyway, teaching me how to deal with ghosts, boggarts, witches, and all manner of creatures from the dark. The creatures of the night. Now my apprenticeship was completed, and I was fully qualified, still living at my master's house, working alongside him to make the county a safer place. Late in the autumn, an urgent message came from Arnside, to the northwest of the country, begging my old master and me to deal with an Abhuman, a foul, monstrous creature that had brought terror to the district for far too long. Many families had suffered at its cruel hands, and there had been many deaths and maimings. Henry Horrocks' death had been deteriorating quite some time, and health. Why did I read that as death? I was like, how can a death deteriorate? No, Henry Horrocks, that voice crack though, I cannot be a professional reader. Henry Horrocks' health had been deteriorating for quite some time, and 3 days before the message arrived, he'd taken to his bed. "You'll have to go on ahead, lad," he told me, struggling for his breath, his chest wheezing as he spoke. "But take care, Abhumans can be very strong." Don't even describe what an Abhuman is. It's just a foul, monstrous creature. But he says, "Keep it at bay as I've taught you, using your staff, then stab it through the forehead. If the job looks too dangerous, keep watch from a distance. As soon as I'm fit enough, I'll follow you north, hopefully tomorrow." With those words we parted, and carrying my staff and bag, I set for Arnside. Had I been going to face a witch, I would have borrowed my master's silver chain, but there were no doubts about its effectiveness against Abhumans, which have varying levels of resistance toward such tools of our trade as row on wood, salt, and iron. No, a blade was the best way to deal with such a creature. I visited Arnside village and a few farms to gather as much information as possible concerning the nature of what I faced and where I would find it. What I heard did little to boost my confidence. The creature was immensely strong and had attacked a farmer only a week earlier, ripping his head from his shoulders while the terrified milkmaid watched from her hiding place in the barn. Okay, after killing her unfortunate employer, the Abhuman drank his blood, then tore the raw flesh from his bones with his teeth. It had now made its home in a tower and usually went hunting for prey soon after midnight. People for miles around were living in fear. No home was safe. Is this before the invention of a shotgun? I'm just saying, you could just shoot in the head. Just drop a nuke. Mushroom cloud. I don't know what I'm talking about. Okay, what are we doing? I came down into the forest at dusk. All the leaves had fallen and lay on the ground, rotten and brown. The tower was twice the height of the tallest trees, like a black demon finger pointing up at the gray county sky. A girl had been seen waving from its solitary window, frantically beckoning for aid. I'd been told that the creature had seized her for its own and now held her as its plaything, imprisoning her within those dank stone walls. First I made a fire and sat gazing into its flames while I gathered my courage. It would be better to wait for Henry Horrocks to arrive. Two of us would have a far greater chance against the creature, but despite his assurances, I had no confidence that he would join me. His condition had been steadily worsening rather than improving. Besides, the creature would probably kill again this very night. It was my duty as a spook to deal with it before then. I'm sorry, I cannot take that seriously. You're calling a monster hunter a spook? I'm just going to have to say, what the frick? That's still like, when was this written? Do these short stories have dates? The book it says 2010. Why would you just don't call your monster hunter something that sounds like something a kid would say, like, "Oh, I'm a spook you." Like, stop. Okay, where are we? It was my duty as a spook to deal with it before then. My duty to the people of the county. Taking the whetstone, it's WHET stone, from my bag. I sharpened the blade of my staff until my fingers could not touch its edge without yielding blood. Finally, just before midnight, I went to the tower and hammered out a challenge upon the wooden door with the base of my staff. The creature came forth, brandishing a great club, and roared out in anger. So is this like a troll? Because, I mean, you never described the monster. It was a foul thing dressed in skins of animals reeking of blood. Okay, now you're describing it. Okay, I was like saying that in the worst time. It was a foul thing dressed in the skins of animals reeking blood, almost 7 feet tall, with a chest like a barrel. It was a truly formidable opponent. I am a spook and trained to deal with these creatures of the dark. And I was strong then and in my prime, but my courage faltered as it attacked me with a terrible fury. At first I retreated. How did I misread that? I think I have dyslexia. At first I retreated steadily, but I released the blade from its recess in my staff and waited for my chance to counterattack, jabbing repeatedly at the beast to keep it at bay. I whirled to the left in a rapid spiral and drew it away from the tower into the trees. Twice that massive club smashed against tree trunks, missing my head by inches. Either blow would have shattered my skull like an eggshell. But now it was my turn to attack. I whacked the creature hard on the side of the head, a blow that would have felled a village blacksmith. But it didn't even stagger. Then I managed to spear it deeply in the right shoulder so that within moments blood started to run down its bare arm and splatter onto the grass. That brought it to a halt, and we faced each other warily. As it bellowed in anger and prepared to attack again, I flicked my staff from my left hand to my right and drove it straight into the creature's forehead with all my strength. The blade went in deep. With a gasp, and then the creature... With a gasp, and then the creature... Hold up. With a gasp, and then a terrible groan. I read that as with a gasp, and then a creature. How? I need to put my glasses back on. Because I took my glasses off so I could get comfy and read it close to my face. But I think my glasses might help with my dyslexia that I may or may not be having. Cleaning my glasses off. Hold on. Okay, what are we doing here? Now let's go back to how we were reading before. It was then that the girl called... Oh, wait, I skipped it. With a gasp, and then a terrible groan, the Abhuman fell, stone dead, at my feet. I paused to catch my breath. Looking down at the dead creature, I had no regrets about taking its life, for it would have killed again and again and would never have been sated. Never have been sated. I freaking suck at reading. It was then that the girl called out to me from the tower, her siren voice luring me up the stone steps. There in the topmost room I found her lying upon a bed of straw, barefooted, and bound fast with a long silver chain, with skin like milk and long fair hair. She was by far the prettiest woman that I have ever set my eyes on. I don't know about that. If someone has skin as white as milk, I don't think they're human. If, they might be, I'm just saying, if they have skin as white as milk, anyway, she was the prettiest woman that I have ever set eyes on. She told me that her name was Meg and pleaded to be released from the chain. Her voice was so persuasive that my reason fled and the world spun about me. No sooner had I unbound her from the coils of the chain than she fastened her lips hard upon mine, and so sweet were her kisses that I almost swooned away in her arms. It was a night that was to change my life, the first night with Meg. I awoke to see sunlight streaming through the window. So you did it? Your first night with Meg, does that mean... And spied the toes of Meg's shoes peeping out from under a chair in the corner of my room. They were pointy shoes. My heart sank within my chest. My master had warned me that pointy shoes were often a strong indication of a wearer might be a witch. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? What if someone just wants to wear pointy shoes? You gonna say, "Die, witch"? Like what? Worse was to come. For as Meg dressed, I saw her back clearly for the first time, and my blood froze cold within my veins. She was one of the Lamia witches, and the mark of the serpent was upon her. Fair of face though she was, her spine was covered with green and yellow scales. What the fuck? Are you kidding me? Witches in this universe have freaking scales on their spine? Yeah, that's definitely a better indication than what they did in real life when they were burning witches. They said, "Oh, you got a growth on you." That's it was literally just a wart. They said, "Oh, that's a Satan bug thing. I'm gonna kill you now." "Oh, you have a very common pet such as a cat. I think you're a witch." Literally, the manual, the real manual to tell people what to look for and how to kill witches was made by a dude that literally just hated women. Like, he was someone incredibly sexist for the time of incredibly sexist people. Like, he was like, he just did not like women. So he made that so he could have as much women dead as he wanted. Anyway, "Witch," I cried, reaching for the silver chain. "You're a witch." "I harm nobody," she cried. "Only those who wish me harm." Okay. I was gonna enunciate the wish, but then I saw "me" was italicized, so I had to restate that enunciation. "It's in your nature to practice deceit," I said angrily. "Once a witch, always a witch, and your kind are not even human." I threw the chain that I had previously bound her, and the long hours I'd spent casting against the practice post in the Chippenden garden paid off. The chain dropped over her head and shoulders, binding her so fast that she could neither walk, speak, nor move her arms. Filled with anger at her deceit, I carried her thus bound back to Chippenden, where a terrible shock awaited me. Okay. You want to read some chapter 2? Yeah, we can do that. I need a break though. Okay, I'm back. I got some water and I squished my dog. I pet my dog. I didn't actually squish her. I just smushed her face. And the other dog we have, the big one, the big black one, Zeus, you don't see too much of. Because Scarlet is, like, insanely cute. Anyway, so this is Meg Skelton, Chapter 2, Harboring a Witch. To my sorrow and dismay, I found Henry Horrocks dead, and cold in his bed. He had been a good master, and eventually my friend, and it grieved me sorely to lose him. Leaving the witch safely bound, I buried my master at the edge of the local churchyard. Although a spook is not permitted to be interned in holy ground, no doubt some priest might have been persuaded to pray over his body, but Henry Horrocks had already told me that he didn't want that. He had lived a blameless, hard-working life defending the country against the dark and felt capable of finding his own way through the mists of limbo to the light. That taken care of, it was time to deal with the witch. First, I dug a pit for her in the eastern garden, then had local mason and blacksmith construct its lid. A stone rim with 13 iron bars. Of course, 13. Of course it's 13. It's always 3, 7, 9, 12, 13. It's always either 1, 3, 7, 12, or 13. Because that's all the fairy tale numbers. I don't know why, because 3 is a cool number. It makes a triangle simple, and just makes a triangle. That's the simplest shape. 1, obviously, because it's the simplest number. And then 3, because it makes the simplest shape. 7, because it's the lucky number. 9, because it's 3 times 3. And then 12 because it's that special number. And then 13 because it's the unlucky number. So anyway, once she was in the pit, I would drag the lid into position. By now my anger had abated somewhat. I had left Meg chained to the side of the house where she had been soaked to the skin by a heavy downpour of rain. She looked a pitiful sight, but despite her bedraggled appearance, her beauty still captivated me. My heart lurched with pity, and I had to harden my resolve. When I released her from the chain, she struggled so fiercely that I barely overcame her and was forced to pull her by her long hair through the trees toward the pit. While she ranted and screamed fit to wake the dead, it was still raining hard and she slipped on the wet grass, but I carried on, dragging her along the ground. Though her bare arms and legs were scratched by brambles, it was cruel, but it had to be done. We reached the edge of the pit, but when I started to tip her over the edge, she clutched at my knees and began to sob pitifully. "Please," she cried, "spare me. I can't live like that, not trapped down there in the dark." Wait, so would she live forever? Like that one supernatural dude who stitched a bunch of bodies on him, and then just could not die, and they buried him. I'm still waiting for him to come out. That'd be funny for him to come back, but he never does. Anyway, enough with that. You're a witch, and that's where you belong, I told her. Be grateful you're not suffering a worse fate. Oh, please, please, John, think again. Can I help it that I was born a witch? Despite that, I never hurt others unless they threatened me. Remember what we said to each other last night, how we felt? Nothing's changed at all. Please put your arms around me again and forget this foolishness. So, I know it's a popular trend and everything, but I find it a bit of a cliche, overused trope to have wizards and witches be genetic, because I don't know, it's just kind of moderny to me. It doesn't seem like creative or classic, just kind of just generic. But then again, if you do something with a generic concept like a zombie outbreak, for instance, you can, if you put a twist on it and make it creative, it can be funny, or it can be like Zombieland. That was good, and World War Z was good too. But other than that, especially when it comes to video games, I absolutely hate like post-apocalyptic zombie crap. Like zombies took over the world, and it's just a virus going around. We need to find a cure. Like that's such an overdone thing. But anyway, I ranted a lot. Anyway, I stood there for a long time, full of anguish, about to topple over the edge myself, until at last I made the decision that changed my life. She was a Lamia witch, and such creatures have two forms. Meg appeared to be in the domestic, near human shape rather than the feral one, in which form the creatures become savage killers. So perhaps she spoke the truth. Maybe she did only use her strength in self-defense. I need to turn my fan on. It is getting hot in here. There it is. Okay. There was hope for her, I thought. So why not give her a chance? I helped her to her feet and wrapped my arms around her, and we both wept. My love for her was so sudden and all-consuming that my heart almost burst through my chest. How could I put her into the pit when I loved her better than my own soul? It was her eyes that captivated me. They were the most beautiful I had ever seen, along with her voice, which was sweeter and more melodious than any siren song. Okay, I get that you love her, but I feel like I would use logic in this instance. If I saw a woman that was most likely a witch, and I saw, or after, I don't know, you didn't figure out that she was a witch until afterwards. But it doesn't matter if she's a witch. If I see a woman, and I'm like, holy crap, I love this woman. I never even met her. I just, like, this is the first time I seen her. Love at first sight, you know? Love at first sight. Boom. We do it that night. Like, I would, like, be like, hold up. I don't know this woman. I just met her. Why did I do this? Like, what? Like, I don't know how you can be like, yes, I love this random woman I've just met this much. It's totally not witch magic. Like, then you figured out she was a witch. How would you not think that was witch magic or something? I don't know. Anyway, I begged her forgiveness, and then we turned together and hand in hand walked away from the pit, back toward the house that now belonged to me. It was a fateful night, and sometimes, despite my faith in free will and my firm belief that minute by minute, second by second, we shape our own futures, it does seem to me that some things are meant to be. For had Henry Horrocks still been alive on my return, Meg would certainly have gone into a pit. So I was captivated by Meg, and she became the love of my life. Beauty is a terrible thing. It binds a man tighter than a silver chain about a witch. We lived happily together for almost a month in my Chippenden house, Meg and I. My fondest memories are the times we sat together on the bench in the western garden, holding hands and watching the sun go down. You gonna have a witch baby? Is an old tall dude with a beard going to break into your house and say you're a witch, Harry, or a wizard, Harry? You're a witch, Harry. What if he broke into Hermione's house, like their parents were both humans? So her parents are both humans, so they would be like, what the frick is happening? And he goes into Hermione's house and be like, you're a witch, Hermione. I'm a what? You're a witch. And then he turns out he's just a witch hunter. Burn the witch! Anyway, that was dumb. I'm going to stop. Holding hands and watching the sun go down. However, things soon started to go wrong. This is what happens when you date a witch. Stuff doesn't go right. That voice crack, though. Unfortunately, Meg was very strong-willed, and against my wishes, she insisted on visiting the village shops. Her tongue was as sharp as a barber's razor. How the heck is a tongue that sharp? Is this figuratively? I hope so. Otherwise, the inside of her mouth is going to get cut up. She gets food out between her cheek and her teeth, and then her tongue just goes straight through her cheek. Okay, I'm going to read the story now. Her tongue was as sharp as a barber's razor, and right from the start, she began to have lively arguments with some of the village women. These disagreements had small beginnings. One woman pushed in front of Meg in a shop. As if she wasn't there. Another called her an incomer. What does that mean? Hold up. What's an incomer? I just look it up on Basically, an incomer means like immigrant or a newcomer. I just looked it up when using Siri because I didn't feel like my computer was asleep and my TV was turned off, so I didn't feel like wasting the time to look it up anyway. Into the story, another called her an incomer, and she sensed hostility from all the women to an outsider who was certainly prettier than any of them. A few of these disputes quickly developed into bitter feuds. No doubt there was spite on both sides. Man, just step away. I don't feel like you need to get involved. A bunch of women fighting, that's just scary. Anyway, Meg, let me do the shopping, I suggested to her. You're drawing too much attention to yourself. If it wasn't for me being a spook and you living in my house, they'd have already accused you of being a witch. You'll end up in the dungeons at Castor Castle. Castor Castle. I hate that. That's like a tongue twister. Castor Castle. If you're not careful. I can take care of myself, John, she replied, as well as I know. As well as you... Okay. That was weird. I switched around you and well in my head. That was freaky. I can take care of myself, John, she replied, as you well know. Would you want me to be confined to this house and garden just because some shrews in the village insist on making trouble? No, I must fight my own battles and well you know it. What? No, I must fight my own battles and well you know it. Okay, that sentence doesn't really make sense to me. And well you know it. What? Eventually, being a witch, Meg resorted to witchcraft against her enemies. Throw her in the pit. Throw her in the pit. And if you're depressed and want to get her out, kill yourself. That's the solution. I don't, really? There's a simple solution to this. You're dating a witch who you fell in love with immediately. It's witch magic, dude. Okay. Eventually she did no serious harm to the women. One suffered nasty boils all over her body. I'd say that's serious harm. Come on, man. All over her body. That mean on the bottom of her feet she can't walk. That mean in places I don't want to think about. That ain't cool. Another exceptionally house-proud woman who worshipped cleanliness had recurring infestations of lice and a plague of cockroaches in her kitchen. Now that's messed up. That's messed up. Have you ever seen BHD's video with the cockroach? And it started flying and then he was like, ah! And he's screaming. There's a compilation of him. That was hilarious. Yeah, he's in an apartment and he had a cockroach infestation in his kitchen and they were freaking everywhere. And he was screaming, and it was hilarious. Anyway, at first the accusations were a little more than whispers. Then one woman spat at Meg in the street and received a good harsh slap for her discourtesy. I feel like a spit is one of the most disrespectful things because it's just archaic. It's just like something a caveman would do. It's worse than a cuss word. Well, no. Cuss words have meaning to them. But spitting, it just doesn't have any meaning. It's just vulgar, a physical act of... It's like mooning someone, except mooning someone's actually funny. Okay. It would probably have stopped at that, but unfortunately she was the sinister of the parish constable. One morning the bell rang at the Withy Trees crossroads, and I went down to investigate. Instead of the poor boggart-haunted farmer that I had been expecting, the stout, red-faced parish constable was standing there, truncheon? What the heck does that word mean? It's literally just another word for a nightstick. Anyway, a truncheon in his belt and hands on his hips. "Mr. Gregory," he said, his manner proud and pompous, "it has come to my attention that you are harboring a witch. That woman known as Marjorie Skelton." Okay, Marjorie, okay. So it's Marge. No, it's Meg. No, it's Meg. It's Meg. What the heck? Meg is short for Marjorie. That's almost as stupid as being Dick short for Richard. What? Meg, in my previous knowledge, has only two things it can be short for: Megan or Megatron, as you know in Family Guy. Like what? Marjorie. Okay, I never knew that Meg was short for Marjorie. I might have some comments in the comment section calling me stupid, but whatever. Anyway, the woman known as Marjorie Skelton has used witchcraft to hurt some good women of this parish, whatever. She has also been seen at midnight under a full moon, gathering herbs and dancing naked by the pond at the edge of Homeslack Farm. I have come to arrest her and demand that you bring her to this spot immediately. Put her in the pit, dude. It's the only solution. Meg, no, or at least straighten her out. You know, I don't know what else you could do, to be honest. She's a freaking witch. She has scales on her spine. Anyway, the page just flipped up. What is happening? Okay. Meg no longer lives with me, I said. She's gone to Sunderland Point to sail for her homeland, Greece. It was a lie, of course, but what could I do? There was no way I was going to deliver Meg into his hands. The man would take her north to Castor, where no doubt she'd eventually be hanged or burned. It wasn't in there. I just said that because, burn the witch. If you didn't already notice, I'm just going to say this right now. You know how people during the witch hunts in England, how they used to check if someone was a witch? They tied a heavy object to her and chucked her in the lake to see if she drowned. And if she didn't drown, she was a witch. Like, really? Obviously, they're all going to drown, so you just killed them anyway. Freaking stupid. Anyway. I could see that the parish, I need to learn how to say that word, constable wasn't satisfied, but there was little he could do about it immediately. Being a local, he knew not to enter my garden for fear what he might find there. Generations of spooks had lived and worked at Chippenden, and the villagers believed the house and its surroundings were haunted by denizens of the dark. So he went away with his tail between his legs, and I had to keep Meg away from the village from that day forth. It proved difficult and was the cause of many arguments between us, but there was worse to come. Egged on by his sister, the constable went to Castor and made a formal complaint to the high sheriff there. Consequently, they sent a young constable with a warrant to arrest Meg. I was told about his immediate arrival by the village blacksmith, so I was ready. I needed to get Meg away as quickly as possible. My former master had bequeathed another house to me. It lay on the edge of brooding Anglezark Moor. I had visited it just once and found little about it to my taste. Now it could be put to good use. In the dead of the night, very late in the autumn, Meg and I journeyed to Anglezark and set up a home there. It was bleak. It was a bleak place, wet and windy, with the winter threatening long months of ice and snow. The house had no garden and was built in a ravine, right back against a sheer rocky crag that kept it in shadow for most of the day. It was big, with 10 bedrooms, including an attic and a deep cellar. But even though I lit fires in every room, it was cold and damp, not a place where I could safely store books. However, we made the best of it and were happy for a while. But then there was an unexpected development that made my life much more difficult. Unbeknown to me, Meg had written to her sister, giving her our new address. Okay. When the reply arrived, she became agitated. I found her pacing up and down in the kitchen, the letter clutched to her chest. "What ails you, woman?" I demanded. Wow, okay. "What ails you, woman?" I mean, but you're talking to your girlfriend this way? I mean, I don't know if you got married, but you're talking to your significant other like this. I don't think that's okay. "It's my sister Marcia," she admitted at last. "Unless we help, she'll be killed for sure. Can she come here to us?" I groaned inside. Her sister, another Lamia witch? Where is she now? Far to the north, beyond the boundaries of the county. She's been hidden and protected, but it can't go on for much longer, or those who guard her will be in danger themselves. There's a Quisitor in the area, and he's already growing suspicious. A thorough search is being carried out. Please say she can come here," Meg begged. "Please do. She's my only relative in the whole world." Inquisitors worked for the church and hunted down and burned witches. I had no love for such men. They would burn a spook too if they got the chance. Often they were corrupt and colluded with jealous neighbors to burn women who were totally innocent of witchcraft. Afterward, the Inquisitors confiscated their land and grew rich. "She can come for a while until the danger is over," I said, relenting at last. I was too much in love with Meg to deny her anything. Meg wrote back, and later that week a reply came. Her sister was traveling to Anglezark by coach. We were to meet her on the Bolton Road at the foot of the moor. "She's coming by night," Meg said. "It'll be safer for her that way." And we got, this is the last chapter, chapter 3. Yep. That's it. Chapter 3. Just a Pussycat. Whoa. So this is Meg Skelton, Chapter 3, Just a Pussycat. I like that meme where the dude played to like 21 What's New Pussycats in a row, and then after the 7th one he played a different song to trick people into thinking it was over. It was hilarious. Anyway, so it was that just after midnight we waited, shivering at the crossroads for the coach that would bring her sister to stay with us. There was still snow on the ground, but there had been no fresh falls for over 3 days, so I was reasonably confident that the road would be open. At last, in the distance, we saw the coach approaching, the breath of the team of 6 horses steaming in the cold night air. I waited for Marcia to alight from the coach, but instead the driver and his mate jumped down and began to unfasten the ropes that bound something large to the back. They carried it towards us and laid it at our feet. It was a black coffin. Without a word, the 2 men climbed back up onto the coach. Then the driver cracked his whip, brought the horse about, and off they went again, back the way they come. I felt cold inside, colder than the air, freezing my forehead and cheeks. "Don't tell me this is what I think it is," I said softly. "My sister is inside. How else could she have gotten here undetected?" "She's feral, isn't she?" Meg nodded. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Oh no, they got a feral witch on their hands. She's gonna have scales all over the body, or how does this witch logic work?" Anyway. Because you would never have allowed her to come here. Cursing under my breath, I helped Meg drag the coffin back up the slope toward the house. Beautiful though she was, Meg was extremely strong, and once back in the house, she wasted no time in tearing off the lid with her bare hands. I stood back, my staff at the ready. "Can you control her?" I asked. "She's just a pussycat," Meg smiled, stepping back to allow Marcia to scuttle from the open coffin. "It's a cat. I thought I saw a pussycat. A putty tat. A putty tat." This chapter's long. Can you control? It was the first time I'd seen a lamia in the feral form. My master had described them to me, and I had read entries from books in the Chippenden library, but nothing would have prepared me for the actual thing. Marcia was far from human in shape. She balanced herself as if ready to spring on 4 thin limbs that ended in large hands. Each finger ended in a long claw. Her back was covered in green and yellow scales, and her hair was long and greasy, falling over her shoulders as far as the ground. Her face. Her back was covered in green and yellow scales, and her hair was covered in green and yellow scales. And her hair was long and greasy. Okay, I think my eyes are getting sick of reading. Falling over her shoulders as far as the ground. Okay, cool. Hair was long and greasy. Her face, which looked up at us each in turn, was like something out of a nightmare, with gaunt features and heavily lidded eyes. Marcia first took up residence in the attic, and this worked well enough for a week or so. A feral lamia can summon birds to her side, where they wait in thrall, unable to fly off, until she finally devours them. The attack and... Oh my god, I need to take a little break there, because I just wasn't reading correctly. Marcia first took up residence in the attic, and this worked well enough for a week or so. A feral lamia can summon birds to her side, where they wait in thrall, unable to fly off, until she finally devours them. The attic and a big... What the frick? My eye is twitching. It's saying, Jacob, this is the first book I've read in, a year. And so my eye is, saying, stop, Jacob, we don't feel like it. Marcia first took up residence in... Oh my god, I just read the paragraph over again. Okay. The attic had a big freaking skylight, and I would hear the birds gathering on the roof, and then their cries of terror as she pulled off their wings, and too late, they realized they were food for a lamia. Then there were the rats. She would summon them, too. I would hear them squealing in excitement as they climbed up the drain pipes, finally using the same route as the birds and dropping through the skylight to scamper across the floorboards. Every evening I would hear Marcia scuttling about as she chased them. How did I read that wrong? And Meg would look up from her weaving and gave me a warm smile. She likes a juicy rat, that sister of mine, but the chase is as good as the eating. Every week, Meg would bring Marcia raw meat from the butcher's to supplement her diet. She looked after her sister well, regularly sweeping the attic floor clean of feathers and rat skins. I wasn't happy, but what could you do? I didn't want to lose Meg, and I reasoned that a feral lamia was better off safe in the attic of my house than roaming free and threatening the county. But then, one dark, moonless night, Marcia got out through the skylight, went up onto the moor, and killed a sheep. There was a bloody trail leading back to the house, where she dragged the carcass behind her. Luckily, a fresh fall of snow before dawn obscured the tracks, so the farmer was none the wiser. I imagine he put the loss down to wolves or the wild dogs that sometimes ran in packs on Anglisark Moor during the winter. Meg gave her sister a good talking to and told me that she'd promised never to do it again. It was just a few weeks later that Marcia first came downstairs. I had been sitting next to Meg facing the fire when I heard an unexpected sounds on the stairs. The clip-clop of shoes. I turned and saw Marcia peering at us from the doorway. It was as if a savage animal, a predator, had suddenly dressed itself in human clothes, producing a creature that was breathing too rapidly and noisily, and still hadn't learned how to stand properly. What the frick? Come here, sister, and sit beside us. Okay, I'm sorry. Who calls their sister sister? Is that weird? Is that weird? Is that a thing people do? Okay, Kindle. Thanks for making a noise. Anyway. Warm yourself at the fire, Meg invited. I was shocked by the change in her appearance. Lamias are slow shapeshifters, and the weeks Marcia had lived at the house and the long hours she'd spent in the company of her sister had alerted her form had altered her form significantly toward the domestic. She was wearing a pair of her sister's pointy shoes and one of her dresses. The garment's hem was knee-length and cut away at the shoulders, and I could see how Marcia's arms and legs had fleshed out. Her hair had been cut neatly, too, and her long, deadly claws were the only visible aspect of the feral that remained. Her face was almost fully human, with a wild, savage beauty. Marcia sat herself down and looked at me out of the corners of her eyes. She licked her lips before giving me a twisted smile. "We could share him, sister, couldn't we? A man between us. Why not?" "He's mine," Meg retorted. "I don't share my man with anyone, not even my sister. I think..." "Kindle, it is time to perish." "Die, bitch!" It didn't. Succumb to the inevitable. Anyway, back to the book. I think that was what I cannot freaking read. I think that was what hardened Meg against Marcia, what spurred her to alert me to danger in the middle of the night. "Marcia's not in the attic," she told me breathlessly. "She's gone out onto the moor looking for food." Not another sheep, I groaned, swinging my legs out over the edge of the bed and starting to pull on my boots. It seemed that Marcia, despite her changed appearance, still had much of the feral Lamia's inner urges. "No, it's worse than that, far worse. She's after a child. One she spied at the farm when she killed that sheep. I thought I'd talked her out of it." "How long has she been gone?" "A few minutes at most. I heard a noise on the roof and went up to the attic and found her missing." Marcia's tracks were easy enough to follow across the snow-clad moor. Meg met with me, offering to help as she could. "If she kills a child, they'll find her eventually. She'll never get away with that, and we'll have to move again," Meg complained. "That may well be true, but we should be thinking of the poor child, the child and the family," I retorted angrily, increasing my pace. Would we be too late?" I wondered with a sinking heart. The footprints led through the farm gate and into the yard. Then we saw Marcia crouching in the shadow of the barn, looking up at the window, no doubt the bedroom of her intended prey. I breathed a sigh of relief. We could still save the child. "No, sister, you're going too far," Meg called out, keeping her voice low so as not to disturb the household. "Come back with us now." But bloodlust held Marcia in its grip. She was beyond words. She hissed at us, then looked up at the bedroom again. Suddenly, she kicked off her pointy shoes, surged forward, and scampered straight up the sheer wall of the house, her finger and toenails gouging into the stone. She smashed the glass with her left fist, then seized the window frame and plucked the whole thing, wood and remaining glass panes, from the wall and hurled it down into the yard, where it fell with a tremendous crash. She climbed into the bedroom, and I heard a child cry out with fear. The next moment, she jumped out through the window again, down into the yard, and landed facing me, carrying the child under her arm. It was more baby than toddler, and it was screaming its lungs out. "Give the child to me, Marcia," I commanded, my left hand targeting her with the blade of my staff, my right reaching out toward the baby. She hesitated and maybe she would have done as I instructed, but all at once the farmer burst out of the front door brandishing a big stick, his wife at his heels, wailing as loud as a banshee. He went straight for Marcia, but she swiped him with the fingers of her free hand, the talons laying open his forehead to the He went straight for Marcia, but she swiped him with fingers of her free hand, the talons laying open his forehead to the bone. He fell to his knees, blood running into his eyes, while his wife screamed even louder and started tearing. Ow. My throat was like really dry there. And started tearing at her hair. Seizing her chance, Marcia raced off across the farmyard, and I immediately gave chase. She started to climb, heading up toward the moor tops. She seemed to be pulling again ahead, even though I was running as fast as I could. I glanced back. Meg was quickly catching up with me. When she drew level, I shouted out angrily, "If your sister kills that baby, I'll put my blade through her heart. Do something now or she's dead," I warned, and I meant every word. In response, Meg began to surge ahead of me. I was slowing because of the deepening snow, but she was starting to close on her sister. I lost sight of them as they passed beyond the brow of one of the lower slopes. When they came into view again, there was a series of blood-curdling yells and screams. They were fighting, clawing, biting, and scratching so that blood sprayed out onto the snow. But where was the baby? To my relief, I saw it lay on the ground to one side, still crying loudly. My first instinct was to pick up the child and get away from the danger of that furious fight. But then the two witches broke apart, and I saw my chance. With a flick of my wrist, I cast my silver chain toward Marcia. It was that one I'd inherited from my master, though I also had the one I had bound Meg in the Abhuman's tower. It was a good shot, and it dropped over Marcia's head and bound her tightly, bringing her down into the snow. Meg wiped the blood from her face, went over to pick up the child, and started to whisper in its ear. I don't know what she said, but it was effective. Within seconds, it became silent, closed its eyes, and nestled against her neck. I hefted the bound Marcia into position over my left shoulder and headed back toward the farm. When we arrived, the mother cried louder than ever at being reunited with her baby, but they were tears of joy. Thank you, I never thought I'd see my little girl again," she said between sobs. "My poor husband, though, he'll be scarred for life." I wondered how grateful she'd be if she knew that I'd been harboring her baby's abductor in my house. So with Meg walking silently at my side, I trudged back to my house, deep in thought. Once again, I told Meg what I intended. Down in the cellar, there are graves and pits ready for boggarts and witches. So far, they're all empty. My master, Henry Horrocks, had them prepared for the work he was doing locally, but after staying there for a while, he decided that he didn't like this house, so they've never been used. "No, please, John, don't put my sister in a pit. Don't do that. She just tried to eat a baby, dude. She is a witch cat thing. She is not a human. Put her in the pit. I'll give her just one chance to avoid a pit, and one chance only. There are rooms on the upper levels of the cellar. She can stay in one of them. She'll be comfortable enough there. The iron gate on the cellar steps will give us extra security, so effectively she'll be sealed behind the gate and the neighborhood will be safe. So that's what we did. Alamia has more resistance to iron than other witches, but the gate was very strong. Marcia was in a secure place. Of course, Meg insisted on seeing her sister every day. The chatted in her room below the gate, and Meg often took her fresh meat and offal from the butcher. Marcia couldn't summon birds down there, but she ate a lot of rats, as I could see from all the skins Meg had to clear up. Ew. The winter moved on, and the days began to lengthen. I did a few jobs locally, including moving on a troublesome hall knocker boggart and slaying a ripper with salt and iron. I realized that there was a lot of work to be done on Anglizark Moor, but Chippenden also needed my help. Could I leave Meg here while I paid the village and its surroundings a short spring visit? Eventually, the decision was made for me, but in a way I didn't expect. It began in a similar fashion to the difficulties in Chippenden. A few words were exchanged between Meg and the local women. This time, this constable didn't get involved because the people of Adlington had a strong sense of community and believed in sorting things out for themselves. Meg still liked to go shopping, but I had employed the local odd job man, Bill Battersby, to bring me bulk supplies of potatoes and other vegetables up from the village to save her the trouble of carrying them. It was he who gave me warning of what was happening. To begin with, it was nothing that I hadn't heard before. Accusations of using curses, a woman suffering night terrors, another too afraid to venture beyond her own front door. But then there was something new. Hold up, you dealt with all this crap. You dealt with all this bull crap with her. You never decided to see what was. You never decided to straighten your significant other out. You just let her cause a bunch of freaking curses. That's great. Cool. But then there was something new. Oh my god. She's after someone's husband. The villagers won't stand for that. Your Meg has gone too far, Battersby warned. What do you mean? Make yourself clear, I demanded, my heart already torn by his words. I knew precisely what he meant, but couldn't bring myself to believe it. She's taken a fancy to Dan Crumbleholm, the village tanner. His wife, Dolly, spied them together, and there are reports that they've been seen kissing behind the tannery, folks. Kissing behind the tannery. Folks won't stand for it. They think she's used witchcraft to turn his head if it happens again. That's what happened to you, John. You got witchcrafted. I sent Battersby away with bitter words, still unable to believe that Meg would betray me by seeing another man. But I noticed that she'd taken to shopping later when the sun was about to go down, something I could see no reason for. So the following afternoon I resolved to follow her. I noticed that she had put on a pair of pointy shoes that she'd only bought the previous week. It was the first time she'd worn them, and I remember thinking how actively they set off her ankles. I kept my distance, but was always in danger of being detected. A seventh son of a seventh son has certainly immunity against the powers of a witch, but Meg was exceptionally strong, and I had to be vigilant. Meg did her shopping, being the last customer at each shop she visited, and I began to feel better. No doubt she just shopped late to avoid the throng of local women and the opportunity for quarrels and disputes. But my relief was short-lived. She went to the tannery last of all. Worse, rather than knocking at the front door, which was already locked for the night, she went to the rear of the premises. I didn't wait long before following her. I had hardly gone round the corner when the back door slammed and I saw Meg walking toward me. "What are you up to, Meg?" I demanded. Nothing at all," she protested. "I want some soft leather to stitch myself a new bag, that's all." The shop was shut, but I knocked on the back door, and Dan was kind enough to take my order even though his business had shut for the night. I didn't believe her. She seemed flustered, which was unusual for Meg. We quarreled bitterly, and following the heart of our exchange, a coldness came between us to rival that of the winter top of Anglezark Moor. It persisted, and 3 days later, despite my protests, Meg went shopping again. This time the village women resorted to violence. Over a dozen of them seized her in the market square. Bill Battersby told me later that she'd fought with fists like a man, but also scratched like a cat, almost blinding the ringleader of the women. Finally, they struck her down from behind with a cobblestone, and once felled, she was bound tightly with ropes. Only a silver chain can hold a witch for long, but they rushed her down to the pond, and after breaking the ice with stones, threw her into the deep, cold water. If she drowned, they would accept that she was innocent of witchcraft. If she floated, they'd have the satisfaction of burning her. Yep, that's what I was describing earlier about. That's like this most retarded method of finding out if someone's a witch or not. Look at her back. If it has scales, she's a witch. That's like the easiest thing you could do. Meg did float, but face down, and after 5 minutes or so became very still in the water. The women were satisfied that she had drowned and didn't really have the stomach for burning her anyway, so they left her where she was. It was Battersby who pulled her out of the pond. By rights, she should have been dead, but Meg was exceptionally strong. To his amazement, she soon began to twitch and splutter, coughing up water onto the muddy bank. He brought her back to my house across the back of his pony. She looked a sorry sight, but in hours she was fully recovered and soon started up to plot her revenge. I'd already thought long and hard about what needed to be done. I could cast her out, let her take her own chances in the world, but that would have broken my heart because I still loved her, and I had to make allowances because it wasn't all Meg's fault. You see, she was an exceptionally pretty woman, and it was natural that men should be attracted to her. The temptations for her were consequently greater than for most women, I told myself. My knowledge of a special herb tea seemed to be the answer. It is possible to administer this to keep a witch in a deep sleep for many months. If the dose is reduced, she can even walk and talk. though it impairs the memory, making the witch forget her knowledge of the dark arts. So this was the method I decided to use. It was very difficult to get the dosage right and painful to see Meg docile and mild. Her fiery... That freaking dryer is driving everyone crazy. You just have to grab the top of it and yank it down. Or slam it. Anyway, if the dose is reduced, okay. It was very difficult to get the dosage right and painful to see Meg so docile and mild, her fiery spirit, something that had attracted me to her in the first place, now subdued. So much so that at times she seemed a stranger to me. The worst time of all was when I decided to leave her alone in my Anglazark house and return to Chippenden for the summer. It had to be done lest the law catch up with her. There was still a danger that she might be hanged at Castor, so I locked her in a dark room off the cellar steps in so deep trance that she was hardly breathing. Well, dang, dude. Farewell, Meg, I whispered into her ear. Dream of the garden at Chippenden where we were so happy. I'll see you in the autumn. As for her sister, Marcia, despite my former promise to Meg, I hired a mason and smith and had her bound in a pit in the cellar. I had no choice. I could not take the risk that she might eventually break through the iron gate. Without human companionship or contact with a domestic Lamia, she would slowly shift her shape until she became feral again, and she wouldn't starve. She would never run out of rats. They could always be relied on. I left for Chippenden with a heavy heart. Although I'd experimented through the winter, I still worried whether or not I'd gotten Meg's dose of herb tea right. Too much and she might stop breathing. Too little and she could wake up alone in that dark cell with many long weeks to wait until my return. So spent our enforced separation riddled with sorrow and anxiety. Fortunately, I had calculated the dosage correctly and returned late that following autumn, just as Meg was beginning to stir. It was hard for her, but at least she didn't hang, and the county was spared the harm she could have inflicted. But a lesson must be learned from this, one that my apprentices should note carefully. A spook should never become romantically involved with a witch. It comprises his possessions and draws him dangerously close to the dark. I have fallen short in my duty to the county more than once, but my relationship with Meg Skelton was my greatest failing of all. This is a tale that had to be told, and I'm glad the telling is over. Always beware a woman who wears pointy shoes. That was very good. I liked the unique portrayal of witches. I don't know if that's an actual, legendary creature or something. Like a Lamia witch. It probably is, but it's a very unique idea for the story. To have the sister is feral and stuff. And the only one who really cares about the sister was Meg, and then he cares about Meg, so it was really kind of interesting. And she was never burned or killed or hanged. Hold up. Oh, that's what's happening. She was never burned or killed or hanged at the end, which I kind of expected, but that's good that I couldn't predict it because predictable stories leave you, I don't know, unpredictable stories. Well, if it's done right, it's better. If unpredictable stories are done right, it's good, like a twist at the end or something. But predictable stories, if they're done right too, they can be good. But predictable stories, sometimes fall short of giving you a satisfying ending if you can predict it. But yeah, I like the unique portrayal of witches. I liked the warning at the end, him realizing that he made the mistake of falling in love with the witch. I liked the efforts he had to keep doing to keep Lamia alive. I just that was a really good story. I didn't expect this book. I had no expectations for this book. I didn't know what it was about. I thought it was about like The Last Apprentice. I watched that movie with the sorcerer dude with the broomsticks and stuff. I really forget. And it was flooding, and then the outlets were like crying because they looked sad, so they were like crying. That was funny. But anyway, I read that, and I thought that this was going to be like that book, like that movie. But it was very interesting. Way more interesting than I think. I have all these books on my shelf that I haven't read, and I don't read them because I don't know what they're about. But I should do that more. I should read the books that are on my shelf, because if I don't know what they're about, then why have them on my shelf? If I don't, like, the reason I'm not reading them is because I expect something different of them, because I'm judging a book by its cover quite literally. But I should definitely start reading these books. But that was a very good story. Yeah. I liked it. I like the unique portrayal of witches there. I'm going to look up if the Lamia witch is a real thing or not. Obviously, it's not a real thing. Lamia witch. Because if he came up with it on his own, it really doesn't matter. If he came up with his own, very creative. If he used something else, good portrayal of that witch, if he got it from some legend. But I'm going to look up a Lamia witch real quick, see what it is. Lamia witch, Wardstone Wiki. What's a Wardstone? The spooks. Wait a minute, hold up. I looked up a Lamia witch, and I found this. The Wardstone Wiki did a description of a Lamia witch, and I noticed that it says the spooks here, so I opened this up into a new tab. Sorry about the won't focus correctly with the brightness, but it's a book series: The Spooks Apprentice, The Spooks Curse, The Spooks Secret, The Spooks Battle, The Spooks Mistake, Sacrifice, Nightmare, Destiny, I Am, Grimalkin, Blood, Slither's Tale, Alice, Revenge, A New Darkness, The Dark Army, Dark Assassin, Spooks Witches, The Spooks Bestiary. Character gallery. So yeah, this may be a completely different thing, But he is called a spook, and it says The Last Apprentice here, when one of them is literally called the Spook's Apprentice. Where is that? Spook's Apprentice. It's the first one here. Spook's Apprentice. What's this one about? Spook's Apprentice is the first novel in the Warstone Chronicles by Joseph Delaney. Yep, Joseph Delaney. Okay. So these are stories from this universe, I guess. All right, that's interesting. Didn't know. So definitely interesting. I like this story. I don't think I need to explain why I liked it again because I just gave a review of it. But the Wardstone Chronicles. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's 20. That's 21 books. John Gregory. This is a character. Huh. Cool. Okay. It's the whole universe I'm getting into. Interesting. Alright. Well, I will read the next story. And I'm sorry this video is so long. I didn't expect to be reading this freaking thing for an hour and a half. But hope you enjoyed listening to me read a book unprofessionally for an hour and a half. I'll finish this book, but because I definitely like that first story, so I'll finish the book. But yeah, this was kind of just a reading / commentary / reaction. It's not really a professional narration or reading of the book, but I hope you enjoyed it. That's it.